Episode 43.
Take two.
We're doing this for remote. Take two. We started it. There was a lag. We're starting over because we want the very best for everyone listening because we're like that. Also, on that note, we led some people astray. We've got to take accountability. High accountability pod. And we went 0-10. We were 0-10 in our picks.
It was embarrassing. It was embarrassing. I still don't. I don't feel okay about it. I still.
I don't either.
I don't care what anybody else says or if anyone else is even saying this or not saying this. It was a weird freaking week in the NFL. Like, obviously, there were a couple upsets. Something to throw out there that I'm just going to throw out there already. Only one person in the whole NFL rushed for 100 yards. One person.
Whoa.
One.
That's an interesting one to get up there.
Was the only one who rushed for 100 yards. So it was just a very weird week in the NFL. All in all. I mean, there's a lot of teams on buys, right? There were, but weird.
I mean, we'll obviously get into it. We're going to jump into week 7 and talk about games specifically. But as a whole, it really was a weird week. And that's the only reason we messed up our picks. Everyone knows that.
We're always spot on with this stuff.
Very smart.
Guys, we're spot on here.
I'm now at 500. Spot on. The Niners going down, which was brutal. The only redeeming fact about that game was that I was at a John Mayer concert, so I was watching on my phone or following my phone instead of it. It was a time, though, dude. John Mayer, what a guy. What a legend. Just tickling that acoustic guitar.
It sounds unbelievable.
Oh. And then JP Sachs opened.
Ooh,
he's got a killer voice, too.
He's got a lot of sad songs.
Yeah, you know, like the If the World Was Ending song?
A lot of sad songs.
Yeah. But feels songs, some feels songs.
Yeah, I guess.
But, I mean, let me tell you what. That John Mayer.
Oh, he was getting after it.
He was getting after it. I was feeling something deep in my soul.
Wow.
It was great.
Wow. John Mayer, dude, he can really, he's masterful with that guitar.
He's so good. Because Iceman came too, which was awesome. So Iceman's beside me and we were just talking about it. I'm like, there's like this one syncopated, or it wasn't even really syncopated. It was just kind of like an arpeggio that he was playing. And I was like, it would take me like 10 takes to get one bar of it in rhythm, everything good.
Right.
And he's just chilling, playing the whole song like nothing's going on. This is just wild.
Dude.
Some people are extremely gifted, and then there are people like me.
Yeah, well, I mean, once again, yes, gifted, I think definitely plays a factor. But that guy's been playing guitar since he was very young. And I mean, can you imagine how many hours John Mayer has played a guitar?
Well, we were even thinking, besides total hours playing guitar, think about the number of hours he's played on stage. Yeah. So he's obviously been playing with John Mayer, then John Mayer Trio, then he played with Dead and Company. And so easily 20, we'll round it down to like 20 years, 25 years, he's probably playing at least 100 shows, 2 hours a night every year. I mean, he's at easily like 5,000 hours
just in
of
shows.
Performance, which is crazy.
I mean, dude, he's probably 40,000 hours, like total time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's awesome, man. I'm glad you guys got the chance to go. That sounds like a dream. You see a lot of good concerts this year.
I have, yeah. I've been on a concert kick since COVID. Because I love concerts, I love live music in general, and so I've just been thinking, what are the ones I want to see? What are the bands? And what I was going to say about John Mayer, which is true for a lot of the concerts I've been to, not all, but most of the ones this year, it just seems like the people on stage are having a blast.
Yeah.
And that makes me happy. Like, I love it when it looks like they're having fun too, versus this is a job and they've played 70 shows and they're done.
You crack me up. I just
want people to have fun.
I just love when they're
I'm just a great guy like that. I want to feel good, and I feel good when other people feel good.
That makes sense. I can appreciate
that.
So
nice.
can.
Tell me more. Yeah.
What episode is this? 43?
This is 43. 43.
Wow. Can you believe that? 43 episodes.
A few episodes in the book, and right now we've got Game 7 on.
Yeah.
Phillies Diamondbacks. Huge Diamondbacks guy. Huge Diamondbacks guy right here.
You know what? The worst part about it is I just don't believe the Phillies are going to pull it out. My heart hopes that. My heart does. But the last couple games, well, not the last couple, the last game, dude, they got crushed at home. The momentum, what is it, 1-0 right now? After one.
Yeah, it's 1-0.
Bryce Harper just struck out in the first inning, and oh gosh, I mean, is it a Rangers?
1-1.
What?
1-1.
What happened?
Bummer. Hate to see it. I'm not gonna tell you. I must be a little bit ahead of you.
Well, no, I'm not. I had to take it off because I didn't know if my Wi-Fi was messing it up.
Bomb just hit a home run. Bomb just went a bomb.
Wow. We love that.
Yeah, so it's 1-1 solo shot. But what if the bank's not anything special? What if the bank can't get it done? What if the Philly fans aren't even real fans? And
or they're like
they can't help the team win.
They're bandwagon fans.
Yeah, and they're bandwagon. And then the best thing about Philadelphia becomes a broken bell and a little like art project with a bunch of scribbles on it. That would be wild.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yes, but you have to also admit you're a bandwagon 49ers fan.
That's true, but I was part of what made them better because I came with my dog CMC.
Yeah, I came with Bryce Harper.
Huh? That's fair. They had a little bit of a run. Yeah, the 49ers had a run. Fair enough.
Dude,
you know what? We're just loyal teammates.
Can you imagine, dude, Philly pulling this out? This, by the way, this is the first Game 7 in Philadelphia Phillies history. Ever.
Really? At Philly or in general?
Ever.
This can't be the first Game 7 ever in any series.
In playoff series. Yep. Look it up.
I'm just going to choose to believe you. That's wild.
The first Game 7.
But there are 2 games. 2 Game 7s, though, because Rangers, thank goodness,
we all
pull
that.
it out against the Astros.
Honestly, we all
love that. Anyone outside of Houston loves that. Everyone loves that. And everyone's going to love the D-backs. Because you have to admit, obviously, you want the Phillies to win. But the Diamondbacks, there's probably 6, 7, I don't know exactly how many teams that I'm like, you know what? I would love for them to do well. And the Diamondbacks are one. The Brewers are one for me. Just some certain teams like that. And so if Philly wasn't playing.
So I think everyone is so happy that the Astros, except Houston Astros fans, but everyone's so happy that the Astros are done. Get them out of here.
That's what I'm saying. If it's a Rangers and Diamondbacks World Series, most of baseball that didn't have their team lose is going to be like, that's awesome. I'm here for that.
Yeah. Well,
even Braves, people would be against. Philly, obviously, people would be against.
Both of those are
Houston,
not popular
everyone's
franchises. Like, I feel like if the Braves went,
right,
but I also feel like they would have higher viewership because they're a more popular franchise.
Probably higher viewership, but this has higher satisfaction. Think about that.
Do you believe life is about satisfaction or about making a difference?
I can't get satisfaction. What is what if it's making a difference and starting to build these lower market teams? Think about that. Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
That's a good point.
We might as well just move on because we're probably going to be talking about this game since we're watching it right now. So, moving on, should we toss it to Iceman? See what he's got for us right now.
Early and often to Iceman.
What's up, everybody? This week's unsung hero is Mark Furman, who is from Oslo, Norway. Yes, I got out of Michigan. Congrats. And so what he has pulled off is really quite impressive. Mark Furman is 65 years old, and he enjoys a good kayak paddle, just like the rest of us on a nice sunny day, except, he's kind of taking it to the extreme. You see, starting in 2017, Mark realized his little hobby could be something he could use for fundraising. So in 2017, Mark started in Norway and just casually paddled, to Greece. Yeah, all the way to Greece. But then he took it to another extreme this year, where he decided to come to the U.S. to see what America looked like and decided to do what's called the Greater Big Loop, which, if you're not familiar with that, it's about 6,800 miles of paddling, which is the equivalent to paddling 643 hours or 68 days. 68 days of paddling. Now, the Greater Big Loop will take you from the outside of Nova Scotia, Canada, down into the Hudson River Valley, into the Great Lakes, down the Mississippi River, out New Orleans, and then around Florida, and back up the East Coast to wherever your point of origin was. And so Mark has pulled this feat off, and that's freaking amazing. At the same time, he's doing it to raise awareness, so he's doing it for a good cause. His wife is a physician, and so he's using 2 different organizations to try and raise some money. Mark is partnering with Doctors Without Borders and Captains Without Borders in order to raise some funds using his physical feat of this paddling expedition, and at this point he's done around $8,900. So Mark, I've got a lot of questions, man. 1, are you crazy? But 2, I just want to shake your hand, because at the end of this whole thing, Mark gets done, and the reporter comes up and he says, "How do you feel? What do you think about this whole feat?" And he goes, "Can somebody get me a drink, please?" And that guy, Mark Furman from Oslo, Norway, is this week's Unsung Hero.
That is quite a lot of paddling.
So what do you think he asked to drink at the end? He said, "Give me a drink."
Probably like a nice cold warm milk. A warm milk?
Dude,
A glass of warm
honestly,
milk. A
man,
mug of warm milk.
I don't really know anyone who would drink warm milk, but you seriously look like a person who would enjoy a glass of warm milk.
I think cats drink warm milk. Something like that.
Are you saying you're a cat?
Little babies
Are you
drink.
saying you're a cat?
Rawr.
But shout out to
I
Mark,
hate
man.
cats.
Iceman's always bringing the heat, no pun intended.
He is bringing the heat. I mean, I'm just thinking about how much paddling that is.
Paddling?
Yeah. You're just
Do you think it's like
68,000 miles. Is that what he said? Or 68 days? A lot of numbers.
So do you think
That's
it's
what I remember.
like it? That would be like 2 or 3 United States, right?
Yeah, because it's, I guess, all around.
That's what I'm saying. So it'd be like 2 or 3.
That's crazy.
That's nuts.
Yeah. People are crazy. That's also inspiring. So
Like
good job.
I can't
people.
imagine paddling 5 miles.
I can't imagine driving a car like 7 miles.
I can't imagine
7
walking
hours.
30 minutes.
8 hours.
Can you imagine walking 30 minutes?
I can't imagine going on a quarter-mile run.
Oh gosh. I can't imagine doing 2 push-ups.
I can't even do one. Should we just jump into week 7?
I think we should jump head first in.
All right, let's start then with the Thursday game. Jags, Saints. Jags pull it out 31-24. Scott got that. We were on board with it.
Yep.
The drop in the end zone, though, for the Saints, that was
That
tough.
was tough.
We got to start there.
That was tough.
Derek Carr had a great pass.
Yep. Dude, how do you drop that pass?
That was the other interesting thing this week. There were a few drops, a few big drops.
Yeah.
Like Tyreek Hill had a couple. Devontae Adams had a big drop.
Yeah.
Very uncharacteristic drops this week. It must have been the script. I'm not a big I'm not like normally. I am sometimes, but a conspiracy theorist. But I might have to buy into the script.
You're a big
I
conspiracy
think
guy.
it's-
Jags are, dude, they're low-key becoming the real deal. 5-2?
And their losses were to the Texans that are shaping up to be a better team than expected.
Yep.
I think that's fair to say. No matter, not saying that they're going to be a top 10 or whatever, but better than expected. And then the Chiefs, who are the Chiefs. So,
Yeah.
not bad.
No, not bad at all, man.
They looked,
And-
Etienne played well again.
And I was about to say, you're not a big Trevor Lawrence guy, but I mean, he's doing his job. I mean, he's not putting up crazy numbers, right? But he's doing his job.
Yeah. I would say that he's like a solid middle of the road quarterback. My brother and I were talking. I feel like there are categories of quarterbacks where you've got maybe like superstar, which is MVP conversation, top maybe 3 to 5 quarterback, then star, then starter, and then like you're looking for a replacement. And I
Yeah.
think he's solidly in the starter category right now. You know what I mean? Like maybe 10 to 20
Well,
quarterbacks.
and, you know, Trevor Lawrence, I mean, he's got all the physical tools. Seems to be he's making better decisions the last couple of years.
Like I'd say good to average quarterback. He's not going to hold them back.
Yeah, but this is also where this his 3rd year in the league, right? Trevor Lawrence, 3rd year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
People like once again, it's like their 3rd year, and I think from even a 2nd year, he had a pretty good 2nd year in the NFL as a QB, and he's having a pretty good 3rd year, and it's like, you know, this guy is what, 25? I mean, think he's got 10 years probably ahead of him, and so it's like, yeah, right now he might be, I would say, you know, let's just say the 13th best quarterback in the NFL, whatever, making up a number, but somewhere around there, right, mid tier.
Yeah.
It's like he could easily the next few years be top 8, right? Maybe top 6.
Well, I think that's the other thing with these quarterback categories. Me and my brother were talking about. It's like I think that very easily you can go up or down one tier based off of situation and based off of coaching and everything.
Yeah.
Like maybe you're not going to go from fringe starter to superstar, but if you're in that starter category in the wrong situation, you can find yourself on the outs, and on the right situation, you can be in that star category where you're like a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Or he could be like Kirk Cousins, who's just top 3 every year.
Puts up crazy numbers, and then people love to hate on.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
So there's
also Corbin Carroll just got picked
I
off
saw.
and stole
it.
second. Got away with it. Oh, you did? You got it back on? Oh, let's go.
Yeah, I got it back
What-
on.
what a
I put it on the
speed demon.
cellular data.
Smart guy. What game should we go to?
So next one, I'll say NFC South matchup. Falcons edging the Bucks. Surprised me a little bit. I thought the Bucks were a little better than that.
Also an ugly game.
Yeah, it's just not pretty. I mean, 16-13, not pretty.
That fumble out the back of the end zone, or I guess out the side of the end zone for Desmond Ridder, that could have been very costly. That was...
It pisses me off when they make dumb mistakes like that and still win a football game. He did that twice, didn't he?
I know.
Didn't he do that twice?
I don't know if he did. I didn't watch
He
the whole game,
fumbled
but I
on
mean,
the goal
cover
line
the football
twice.
up there. It was a sloppy game.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say. So I don't even want to
I
talk
don't
about
wanna
it
talk about
anymore.
Yep. Let's talk about the Browns. And let's talk about how they combined for almost 80 points in that game.
I took the under at 39.5 because I was like, backup quarterbacks, Browns are a crazy defense. No. So wrong.
You know what we should do at the end of the year? We should have like one of each, like one of me, one of you, and like our worst pick throughout the season. That could be the worst pick throughout the season.
And I was pretty confident on it before.
You were. You were actually very confident
Wow.
on it. Well, I was also confident in the Lions to cover, and the Ravens just... Well, let's talk about that game. What the heck?
I think, well, two things actually with it. I've been saying all year that the Ravens just haven't taken that leap from a good team to a great team by finishing teams off, playing like a complete game. They did it this time. Like, I think a lot of props go to the Ravens in that game. I think a little bit was a trap game for the Lions. Yes, you lost David Montgomery. Yes, there have just been injuries and things, but I think all in all, the Ravens were dialed in. They were ready to be that top team, and the Lions weren't there that game. Not saying that they can't bounce back or still beat them later.
But I'd argue, and this is not just because I have him on a fantasy team, but I argued that Jahmyr Gibbs is better than Montgomery, and he actually played well last game for the Lions. So it's like, yeah, I guess it was a little bit of a trap game, but I mean, dude, the Ravens put it freaking to them.
Well, I think the Ravens deserve so many props in this game. They played so well. The other thing is, it's the NFL. Any team can beat anyone any week. And when you come out swinging and just pop someone in their mouth like that at the beginning of the game, I think it's easy to get out of hand. Whereas I think sometimes we think it's college where you have teams that are so much more dominant than others. Whereas realistically, even the Panthers could beat any team this year. Not saying they will, but they could.
No, I mean,
whereas,
you're right. But at the same time, it's like you don't expect, because I put the Lions, I think, at 5 or 4 last week, and you freaking don't expect the Lions to get, I mean, just not even have a competitive game against the Ravens.
And that's where I think that part of it, maybe they were maybe it was a trap game, maybe it was just the way the Lions or Ravens came out. But I think that they just jumped off so quickly, so fast, and just popped them in the mouth that's why it was more of a landslide, if that makes sense. But who knows? I guess what I'm saying is I don't think these teams are 32 points apart.
No.
I just think that the Ravens played a heck of a game.
Yeah. So next game, I would say, man, that which was miserable to watch because it was on the local network. It was the freaking Commanders and the Giants. Like, dude, and also in all honesty, I've been very high on Sam Howell, and he's had a couple games this season where it's like, come on, man. Like, no TDs, 1 pick. And I mean, Tyrod Taylor outplayed him for the Giants.
The Commanders, I'm realizing this year, they played a good game against the Eagles where the Eagles secondary especially looked terrible. And I've been a little bit higher on the Commanders than I think they deserve.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't think they're that good of a team
they're top
this
15.
year. But still. No, I that's what I'm saying. I think they're probably in the 25-ish range. We'll see, but that's my thought there.
Yeah, I don't even want to talk about it, dude. It was miserable to watch.
Other thing I'd say, though, with this it's interesting. Week 7 feels like the perfect time where you think you figured out the season, you think you figured out what's happening, and then you realize that you know nothing
Correct.
about football, or like teams just surprise you. And I think that this happened to us and everyone this week.
Yeah, I was more confident about my picks this week than arguably ever, because I was like, I feel like I have a pulse
Same.
on the NFL, and well, we saw how that played out, going 0 for 5. Speaking of pulse on the NFL, dude, I mean, I don't know what the money line or what the line was, man, but the Patriots, what?
The Bills need to figure something out. Big time.
Dude, the last couple games, they have looked like, I mean, not a good football team.
And I don't even think it's Josh Allen.
Dude, he's the most overrated top 5 QB.
But the Bills' problems, honestly, he's still out there making plays. It's just kind of him and Stephon Diggs figured it out. Like, what's up with their defense? The Patriots scoring 29? Come on.
Yeah.
That's bad.
No, I'm with you. And also letting Mac Jones score TD, right? Because the Bills went up with, what was it, a minute and a half, 2 minutes to go? And the Patriots needed a freaking TD. Oh, sorry, they needed 3 points, and they got a TD with like 12 seconds to go. So they let him march all the way down the field and score a TD with less than 2 minutes left. So
it was ridiculous.
I don't know, man. The Bills, they have Josh Allen. Yes, they have Stephon Diggs. Yes, but defense has a lot of holes.
But that's what I'm saying. They've got to figure something out quick.
Dude, because they got to, I mean, it's kind of crazy to say this. I mean, Bengals had a bye last week, but you're kind of looking at the Bengals at 3-3 going like, hey, this is your time. Like, win the next couple games.
It's opening up a lot. Let's just put it out there.
But the Bengals do play. Guess who this week?
The Niners.
49ers.
But before we get to the Niners and the Dolphins Eagles, because obviously those are some of the fun games to talk about. Packers, Broncos. Broncos pull it out. Nothing really special there. Seahawks, Cardinals. Nothing really interesting in that game. I do think the Bears deserve a little bit of a shout out with the backup quarterback getting down. Looked pretty good. But and I have a little bit of a rant of this because, of course, I love hating on officiating. But did you see in the Steelers-Rams game the spot on 4th down right before the 2-minute warning?
No.
So Rams are on defense. Steelers are coming down. They go for it on 4th down. And a lot of times spot's hard to tell. But Kenny Pickett's trying to sneak in. There's like the side camera coming in, and he gets pushed down. So it's very obvious where he's down. You can see his knee. You can see the ball. But the Rams had used up all their timeouts before the 2-minute warning, and so they didn't review it. It was the play that ran down to the 2-minute warning, so they couldn't challenge it, and they didn't even review the call. And it was like clear as day short.
And they gave to him?
Yeah, because it was like the spot on the field, but they just didn't review it.
Got it.
And I'm like, you gotta review. Like, I understand it's not the 2-minute warning where you challenge everything, but a play like that, you review stuff in the NFL. Like, you've got to review that play.
I wonder why. I mean, is it just like not within 2 minutes you don't review the spot?
Maybe McVay said something earlier that got on the wrong side of the officiating crew.
Maybe.
But who knows? Anyway, that was a tough one. Chiefs Chargers, though, the Chiefs finally looked good again. So against my complaints were against the Ravens not looking good. Chiefs offense not firing. They came out firing. So
by the way, how much do we love that the over was 49 and they scored 48? You know what's my favorite part? They had 41 points at half. They needed 8 points in the second half, and they got 7 combined.
Yeah, we love it about as much as the 49ers missing 2 field goals to keep them from covering the over. We love it just about as much as the Bears-Raiders game, where it looks like a lock for the under that we're taking, and then the Bears get a pick 6 and then give up a garbage time touchdown to the Raiders. We love that. We love it. That's how much we love it.
But yeah, Chiefs finally looked. I mean, dude, Patrick, I'm going to talk about that in my quarterback talk, but Patrick Mahomes looked like Patrick Mahomes.
It's true. He looked good. Kelce obviously going off. And as a perfect transition, one of my things in the Eagles game that I loved, the commentators were talking about how Travis Kelce's out there catching, 14 passes, 170 yards and a touchdown. And Jason Kelce's doing the tush push, getting 3,000 pounds laying on top of him. It's like one of them picked the right position, the other one did not.
Yeah, dude. Jason Kelce is a Hall of Fame center. I mean, that guy is one of the biggest reasons, if not the biggest reason, why that tush push works so well in Philadelphia.
I mean, other teams can't do it. It's clearly Kelce and Jalen Hurts.
They can't. The Vikings game, dude. I watched Kirk Cousins do it like it was like a second and 1, third and 1, and he neither one. He didn't get it.
It's ridiculously hard to stop. And in the Dolphins game, they had 2 huge stops going to 4th down. The first one was on like the 25-yard line, and no other team could ever go for it there. And the Eagles are like, yeah, I mean, no one can stop us. Why would we not go?
Right.
It's ridiculous. It's like you're playing Madden and your friend's always going for it on 4th down. You're like, I've stopped you. Just punt it to me.
That was me.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense.
It would be 4th and 12, and I'd do the freaking hot routes, and I'd do like cross slants, 4th and 12. I used to be a big hot route guy. Audible, Omaha.
Peyton Manning himself.
Yeah.
I have some thoughts, but before I get to my thoughts, what were your thoughts on the Dolphins-Eagles game?
You know what my thoughts are. My thoughts are everyone's like, Dolphins, oh my goodness, they're so good this year. The Dolphins are the real deal. They're unbelievable in the offense. The Dolphins have played 2 top 10 teams, and both times have lost by at least 2 touchdowns. They cannot compete right now with the top teams in the NFL. In fact, I almost didn't put in my top 10.
Well, you don't think that the fact that the Eagles had 0 penalties and the Dolphins had 10, including, by the way, when the Eagles put blitzers and headlocks, when they grabbed face mask and pass interference on 1st down or 4th down, you don't think that any of that has a play too?
I don't think it has nearly.
The Eagles are such a clean team that they shouldn't have gotten any penalties. Is that fair?
Dude, some people play better defense, right? Some people don't hold as much.
Oh yeah, it helps when you it helps when you hold a face mask though. That's a great way to get away with pass interference.
Yeah. Well,
dude,
in all honesty,
and
though,
then your 2 penalties.
If you want to have that argument, then the Chiefs would be 4 and 3. So,
well, that's fair. Okay, so I'm going to go in though on this because there were very iffy calls in that game. It was bad. Very bad and does not add up. And so I was looking, and unfortunately, the head ref went to South Carolina, which is tough, but integrity, got to talk about it. So he went to South Carolina, and they got banned. His crew got banned from doing an ACC championship because he had been officiating Clemson games and had gotten unethical calls from them. And so that crew wasn't able to officiate the ACC championship. Well, the same official, the head official, grew up 65 miles outside of Philadelphia.
Oh, we love that.
It's interesting. As an official, you're supposed to, I guess, abandon your fandom when you become an official. But to me, I'm like, that it just doesn't work that way. Like, the reason you become an official, I'm assuming for 99% of people, is because you love football, you love the game. So almost all of them are going to grow up loving a team, and you don't just completely not care anymore. So I feel like it would be way better for you to have to declare who you like and then adjust and then have games that are, I guess, don't impact that team.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, like we're ignorant to think that you don't care about it anymore just because you say you don't.
That's a good point. And a lot of times you might think that you don't care, but subconsciously, who knows?
Yeah, that's more of my point. Like, you try your best. It is interesting, though, because on the roughing the passer called on Christian Wilkins, I saw the head ref, who's the guy that I was talking about. They're both back there. The other guy throws the flag, and then they're like huddling up right before he makes the call. And he looks over at the other guy who made the call, and he's like, "Are you sure? Like, are you like? I'll watch the same thing. Are you sure that this is a roughing the passer?" And the other guy's like, "Yeah," and he threw the flag. But I mean, that call was rough. There were a couple calls that could have been also called on the Dolphins, but the 4th down pass interference face mask, that was awful. That was like egregious. And then there were a couple, I honestly think one was on Jason Kelce, but like either pulling guard or the center coming around and then just straight up put the defender in a headlock and wasn't called a hold or anything. Like, it was tough to watch.
Yeah, I agree with you on the 4th down one. I can't really speak to many others because I do feel like in the NFL, there's so, like we talked about, there's so many fine lines, and there's so, like, I forgot what lineman said it, but every play is a hold by some guard in some form or facet. And it's like,
Oh, well, I'll send you this one though, because it's a headlock. It's not like a grab. Like he
no, I know.
wraps
When you say like
around
10
him from
penalties
behind.
to 0, like, it's, I don't know about the 10, but yeah, the one on fourth down, I agree, should have been pass interference. That one should have been pass, but still, dude, at the end of the day, like, it wasn't a close game.
Well, no, that's where I disagree, because there were a couple that was right before the pick six. So that was like towards in the red zone essentially. Then obviously the tush push is just hard.
Yeah.
Like you can't do anything about it. And I don't think it should be banned either just because they're good at
Right.
it. But like when you're not getting calls and you're getting that, like this game really wasn't a blowout.
It wasn't like the Ravens-Lions game. But I mean, dude, after the first quarter, it was a commanding Eagles victory. Like the Dolphins never really, from the first quarter on, like after the first quarter, it wasn't really that competitive.
It was tied though in the third quarter.
It was after the pick six. Yep, it was.
Yeah. So, and that pick six was after the holding call before that could have been tied right before that. So if that hadn't got called and then they had scored and then still gotten the pick six, I'm not saying it would have gone that way, but it would have been 24-17. So I wouldn't really say it's a commanding victory after the first quarter. Like if that game was 31-17, the same as the Chiefs and the Chargers were 31-17. And I would say that the Chiefs had a much more commanding victory than the Eagles did.
Oh, I don't know, dude, because Miami could not get anything going on offense. Like they didn't even score in the second quarter outside of an interception return. So like Tua had a very 200 yards, a pick, and a TD.
They did score. They scored a touchdown in the second quarter.
I said after the second.
Tyreek Hill scored a 20.
I said in the second half. Like in the second half of that football game, the Dolphins did not score offensively. They scored one defensive touchdown.
But that's what I was saying. They were in the red zone when that fourth down was called, or like right around there.
And only 45 yards rushing.
That was the biggest thing. The first half rush defense, which we've also talked about, where like they haven't looked good for the Eagles and they clearly stepped it up there, and Miami can run the ball. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that it's not like we're talking strength of schedule between SEC and Pac-12 or something. Like, yes, there are harder teams and harder schedules in the NFL, but again, any team can beat any team, as we've seen. And so I don't think that I guess what I'm saying is I'm going to hold off the fraud talk yet for the Dolphins. I think through week 7, we'll see come playoffs who's frauds and who's not.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm just saying people were very high on the Dolphins and they had a very weak schedule the first 6 games of the season. So, it's the same argument where it's like, this person's played a lot of hard teams and they're 4-3, so we're going to put them in the top 10. But the facts show for itself. Like even the Bills blew them out by 28. The Eagles didn't blow them out, but they won by 14. Like 2 top 10 teams in the NFL, but the Dolphins didn't really compete with either. So the Dolphins will not sell me until they compete with a legit NFL team.
I just don't understand how you can say they didn't compete when it was tied in the third quarter. They put the Eagles on 2 fourth downs before they got to midfield that they were able to get out of, and then they ended up going down and scoring there. Like, that's what I'm saying is they competed with the Eagles.
Okay. My version, like if you think
10 penalties versus 0,
like you said the Dolphins were 2 in the power ranking. You put them behind the Eagles, and the Eagles won by 14. So it's like, from that standpoint, they did not compete. We're not talking about the Carolina Panthers playing the Eagles, and it's like, oh my gosh, they were tied, dude. They were tied in quarter 3.
Competing's not relative.
They were tied though in
competing's not. Competing's not relative. It's either like a close competition or not a competition.
They never took, but they never led once in that football game.
Yeah.
Anyway, my whole point is like, I think the Dolphins are not nearly as good as what everyone says because they had one 70-point game and they have a lot of fast guys. Just because they had one 70-point game and they have a lot of fast guys does not make them a top 3 NFL team. That's all I've been saying.
All right. Fair. Let's talk about the Niners Vikings.
That was an ugly game.
I'm still just so mad that there were no calls on the Eagles that weren't offside.
Hold on.
That to me is sketchy.
Hold on. Phillies just scored. Wow, let's go.
Bummer.
Let's
Bummer.
go.
I hate Philadelphia.
Pitch and change. Pitch and change. Uh-oh.
That was Bomb has scored, so he's got both of them runs today.
Throw him a chair.
You got some interesting facts for the Niners Vikings?
Dude, Niners Vikings, that really surprised me. I thought the 49ers were going to bounce back in a great way. You know I'm a big bounce back guy. I'm a big bounce back guy.
Yeah.
And I really thought that once again, I picked them to cover the 6.5. I thought it was going to be a 10, 14-point game against the Vikings. But dude, what? You can make the same conversation just like the Bills. Like, what is going on?
Good. Yeah.
Like, do you think it's like Debo's that big of a weapon that if they don't have Debo, then like their offense is not nearly as good? Do you think it's just like, Brock maybe just had a tough couple games? Do you think what do you, you studied this stuff with the 49ers. What do you?
So my thought is, one, I was a little bit disappointed in their defense. I mean, I lost in fantasy by 3.3 points, and their defense got me -3 points. That was tough. But I think I was a little disappointed in their defense both weeks, honestly.
How'd their defense get you -3 points?
I can't stand some of the fantasy points.
Yeah, because they only scored 22.
Right. And they had at least an interception.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand.
Or fumble recovery. Yeah. So it's probably based off of yards, which is
Maybe.
I don't know. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. But so the 49ers, their offense with Debo and Christian McCaffrey, they've tried it with Ray McLeod, and it just isn't the same as with the two of them where they substitute in and out.
Yeah.
And they've built their offense around that in a lot of ways. So Debo going down, I think, is massive. And he's going to be out next week, which will be tough too against the Bengals. But so that's a big loss. CMC is not at 100%, which no one is in the middle of the year, but he was questionable going into the game. So that
he looked good. He had 2 TDs.
But still,
he looked like himself.
No, his yards per carry were way down.
Well, that's because they couldn't pass the football.
Well, no, he didn't pass terrible. He was, until the 2 interceptions in the fourth quarter, he looked pretty good. At halftime, he had 2 or 3 incompletions for 130 something yards, which is very on par for what it normally is. For the 49ers. So I don't really know. I think Debo, is a bigger piece than people realize, but still there's just someone needs to step up and separate.
Yeah. And I think the Vikings, once again, are very and always underrated, right? They have a tough start to the season and they go, they got lucky last year. No, the Vikings are still a pretty good football team.
Right. And yes, Justin Jefferson's out right now, but they still have some playmakers. Kirk Cousins, like we talk about,
top 3
is solid. Anyway, that's my thought on that game. It was frustrating. I also didn't watch all of it. I was just trying to follow along. So I wish I could speak more to it.
And I've actually, I've listened to a few different people speak about like commentators about the 49ers Vikings game. Cause I'm just kind of curious, what the heck's going on the last couple weeks with the 49ers, dude. And people, once again, even announcers and commentators, they're the first ones to overreact, right? When things are going well, they overreact this way, and then they're 2-4, like the Vikings or whatever, and then they're they're never gonna make the playoffs next 40 years. But Brock Purdy, dude, they were having a conversation. A couple announcers, there was Stephen A. and a couple more. They were putting Brock Purdy in the same conversation as Brian Hoyer, Jimmy G, and the previous 49ers QBs.
So it's interesting. I also, and this will get me going. I think people way overreact, like you're saying, and also just have ignorant opinions.
Yeah.
Because I saw on Twitter a bunch of people talking about how, the 49ers are regretting the trade, getting rid of Trey Lance and all these things. I'm no, they're not. Stop obsessing over people's pedigree of what they thought coming into the league. We already know that doesn't necessarily mean that much. Also, it's 2 losses. He's thrown 3 interceptions the last 2 games. That's a lot for him. Jalen Hurts threw 3 interceptions in 1 game. Calm down, people. Also, to the point that we talk about the pressure on quarterbacks, think about the toll that it would take. Yes, it's motivating you sometimes, but when you have an army of people just waiting for you to fail because they're like, haha, you see, you weren't drafted high enough, so like you're destined to be a failure.
100%.
Like I saw so many people were like, he's showing the quarterback why he was drafted last overall. Like he's showing his true colors and everything. I'm like, he threw 2 picks at the end of the game. Those were bad. I'm not excusing those.
And those were, I mean, they had a chance to win that football game.
Yeah, like those were bad. The week before, though, he had one ball that slipped, and he led them down the field for a game-winning drive to the field goal was missed. I'm not like running for the hills saying Brock Purdy's a bad quarterback. That's ridiculous at this point. Yes, if he does it for 7, 8 more games, potentially then there's a conversation of, was it just the mountaintop early on?
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
Yeah, dude. Look, I agree with you. I still think Brock Purdy is a good NFL QB. I'm not saying that. I think some of these once again commentators are they're. I don't know how they get paid because it's like they just overreact like both ways, right? But because like 2 weeks ago they're like Brock Purdy's an MVP, and now they're like, should they cut him?
Yeah. I know. And it's like he's had 2 bad, not even horrible, but bad weeks.
But this is what I will say.
Yeah.
The last 2 games, yes, he only threw 1 pick the last game, and it was raining. He had a 50 passer rating, and he threw for 120 yards. And then, of course, this game, right? A couple bad picks. Yeah, he threw for 270, had a touchdown, but once again, did not win the game. Couple bad picks. My point is, you take McCaffrey and Debo out. Obviously, those are 2 great weapons, right? And it's decent Brown state, sure. But he struggled a lot. And then you take Debo out. You still have Christian McCaffrey. You still have, Ayuk. But you also, here's one thing people aren't talking about. Trent Williams. Trent Williams is their, Hall of Fame left tackle, right? One of the best left tackles in the game. And he's out the last couple games, right? So, and this is a very small subset. So, once again, take this with a grain of salt. But I can see where other people are looking, being like, oh, well, maybe he is more of a system guy than we thought, because if he doesn't have his line and if he doesn't have all his pieces, even though he still has Kyle Shanahan and the offensive coaches in the game plan, it's not the same.
Yes, I get that. The 2 thoughts that I have there, though, are one, he's not a rookie quarterback this year, but he's within starting his first 16, 17 games. So, well, for the sake of this conversation, we'll say like a rookie quarterback. Yes, Hall of Fame, all these pieces aside, you get this routine, you get your offense. It is very hard to get comfortable with that and be a great leader in it, and then immediately be adaptable as such a young quarterback. Do you know what I mean? Like a Patrick Mahomes right now. And I think also skill-wise, it's very different between Patrick Mahomes and him. I understand that. I'm not saying that the 2 of them are skill-wise the same. Like Patrick Mahomes will always be able to improvise and make things happen in a way that Brock Purdy never will be able to. But what I think is interesting is for such a young quarterback, he's playing this offense really well. And then you take these pieces away and you're like, all right, now continue like nothing happened. Like what rookie or second year quarterback is really able to do that if you think about it? And so, yes, these are very high caliber players, but I think even more than that, it's here's this offense, know it, now it's changing and adapt and then do it in flying colors. That's tough for anyone. You know what I mean?
It is. No, it is. But at the same time, it's like the argument on the other side is yes, he's missing like the last game. Yes, he is missing Debo, but he still has, he still has Kittle. He still has Ayuk. He still has Christian McCaffrey.
Right, but then like the way that the offense is run, that's what I'm saying, is different without Debo and him. And then obviously like your left tackle, who's not going to be affected if they have an amazing left tackle go down. But then the second one that I wanted to say with this is it's what I talked about last week. He led the same game-winning drive. You could have talked about Shanahan being more aggressive at the end, but that wasn't Purdy's call. Drives them down and sets them up in position to hit a game winner. And what I said was frustrating is people are going to now talk about how he can't finish
That's a
games.
good point,
He can't
yeah.
come back. And he did the exact same thing, and the kicker missed it. And so now, like, some of what you're seeing is he choked in the moment, like he can't win games. It's like he essentially did the exact same thing to win the game last time, and the kicker missed it. So that frustrates me too, because I'm like, all right, let's take these things into account before we pass judgments that all of a sudden this quarterback that had 2 bad games is actually trash now when we need Trey Lance, who's proven nothing.
Right.
Has shown no upside.
Right. No, 100%.
Anyway.
Last thing I'll say, the 49ers, since I believe it's 2017 under Kyle Shanahan, or whenever he took over, they are 0-29 when trailing by 5 or more points in the fourth quarter. So if you're up 5 or more points against the 49ers, historically, by the start of the fourth quarter, you will win that football game. So that's interesting because, of course, everyone talks about Kyle Shanahan, great coach, this, that. Obviously, a couple bad games. 49ers fans are like, maybe he's not a good coach, just like how I do with Bill Belichick. But it's like, it's pretty interesting that if the system's not going well, right, and they have to have a player to step up and they have to win a football game, it hasn't happened. So it'll be really interesting to see, like, if the 49ers later in the season get down by, 5, 7, 10 points in the fourth quarter and see if they can come back and make some plays.
That's really interesting. That's a good point.
Real quick, QBs. I just want to touch on 3, and we've already honestly kind of touched on them. But Brock Purdy, I was actually going to say that people are overreacting already like they typically always do. I still think he's a good QB, but he's had a rough go at it. But I also think these are the moments, right? Like right here. These are the moments.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
You lose 2 games in a row when you have arguably the best offense in the league, one of the best offenses, and you lose to the freaking Vikings and the Browns, and it's like, now what do you do? Right? So it'll be interesting to see the rebound. So I put him in there as number 1 because it's like, I think people are overreacting, but I also, I think the next few games are going to say a lot. Next 3 to 5 games are going to say a lot. Number 2, I want to talk about Patty Mahomes, just being Patty Mahomes for a second. I mean, 400 and almost 30 yards passing, 4 TDs, and that was a commanding victory against the Chargers. You can't argue that one. But Patrick Mahomes finally being, like you said, the Chiefs offense coming to life. And if we see that Patrick Mahomes, he's going to win a Super Bowl.
As the guy who has him in all of my fantasy leagues, I would love to see that Patrick Mahomes
if he plays like that when he needs to, I mean, Super Bowl incoming. Number 3. I mean, that is unbelievable. I mean, he just makes some throws that just obviously are just unhuman. No one else can make. So it was good to see Patty Mahomes have his first Patty Mahomes game of the year, I felt like. And the number 3,
I love it.
Lamar Jackson. I mean, Lamar had a Lamar Jackson. Lamar did not have a Lamar Jackson game as he passed for 360 yards. That's not true.
Do we know that has to be one of his best games?
It has to be because, dude, Lamar, he'll have 200 yards passing and 80 yards rushing. That's like, that's a Lamar Jackson stat line.
And I was pumped to see it because remember we talked beginning in the year. I was like, I think we could see big strides with Lamar Jackson's passing game this year.
Yeah.
And then when that happens, that is a scary thing.
And we have. I mean, if he performs the way he did against the Lions for the rest of the season or just in key games, dude, and my guy, he had 4 TDs as well. He had 3 passing and a rushing. So he had 400 total yards and 4 TDs. That's disgusting. Dude, if we see Lamar and Patrick Mahomes, if we see those 2 quarterbacks play like that, I mean, that's going to be the AFC Championship. Right there.
Yeah, could very well be.
So, short and sweet.
They were really fun to watch.
Yeah.
Short and sweet, just like Diamondbacks scoring, tying it up 2-2. Love to see it. Love to see it. Corbin Carroll, let's go. Big Arizona guy. Love those 2. Should we just hit our power rankings?
Dude, let's do it.
Let's run through it.
Let's do it.
I think we talked about it enough. You want to hit it first?
I'm going to go quick. I almost took Buffalo out, but I have Buffalo at 10. They have some things to figure out, though. Cleveland Browns at 9. I still think it's a solid football team. Wild card. Dallas Cowboys at 8. I hate putting them top 10, but they're 8. Detroit Lions, I think, is still 7. Yeah, they got blown out by the Ravens, but I think it was a little bit of a trap game, and I think they're going to bounce back nicely, and I believe in Jared Goff. Dolphins at 6. Obviously, still a good football team, but they still got to prove some things here. Jaguars at 5. They've played pretty well the last few weeks, and if Trevor Lawrence can figure a couple more things out, start playing a little bit better, I mean, that offense could get scary. Number 4, we got the 49ers. I almost didn't want to put them at 4 just because they, just like the Bills, have a lot to figure out, and the next few games are going to say a lot. I truly believe in the next 3 games.
You were going to put them lower than 4?
Yeah, just because, dude, they lost their last 2, and they have a lot of things to figure out right now. I really believe that in the next 3 to 5 games, that they're either going to be top 2 or they're going to be almost outside of the top 10. I think the next 3 games will say a lot. Like if they take care of the Bengals next week, right, and they play well the next couple games, I think they're easily in the top 3 again. But if they don't, if they lose 2 out of the next 3, man, I mean, maybe not outside the top 10, but definitely outside the top 5. So I think the next 3-4 games are going to say a lot about the 49ers. Number 3, Ravens. They keep playing like that. It'll be them and the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship. Lamar Jackson holding it down. Number 2, we have my Eagles fly. I mean, I almost put them at 1. Yeah, Chiefs are playing a little better right now. But I'm telling you what, man, they're finding a way to win. Yes, they lost the Jets. Not a great game, but bounced back very, very strongly against the Dolphins. I think Jalen Hurts is going to get better as the season progresses. That tush push, unstoppable. And then the Kansas City Chiefs, wrapping it up at number 1. Once again, if Patrick Mahomes plays like that, it's going to be tough to stop.
So mine, pretty similar. Bills at 10. They need to take a long look, figure out, do they even want to be a playoff team? Honestly. 9, Cowboys. They haven't shown anything yet. They had a bye week, and so they were able to escape week 7 by having a bye. So have them at 9. Browns at 8. I hate saying it, but even without Deshaun Watson, they look good. So potentially could look better when he comes back. Lions, I'm going to keep at 7. I'm not going to read too much into this week with the Ravens. Jags at 6. Very close to top 5. Right now I have the Dolphins ahead of them. I think that things could have gone different in the Philly game. And so I like them a little bit above, but again, it's kind of close. It's kind of getting murky now in the top 10. Then I've got Ravens at 4. They showed all the things that I've talked about wanting to see. They finished games. They played really good. Lamar Jackson looked unreal. Like, that's the Ravens that I wanted to see. Then the 49ers at 3. I'm still really high on them. They had a couple bad weeks. When Debo comes back from his, I guess, fractured shoulder or whatever, I think that they can go back to top form. So I still like them right now at 3. It's still early midseason. And they started out like 4-4 last year or even below. So they can turn it around. They've shown it. Eagles at 2. They look good again. And then the Chiefs at 1. I've been saying that their offense hasn't looked good, and they unlocked it. They showed us the Chiefs that they are with Patrick Mahomes, with Kelce. They looked really good. And I thought having McCole Hardman back was unlocking things for their offense that we haven't seen. So he didn't do much for the Jets, but I think that he's a good fit in Kansas City. So those are my power rankings. That's what I think. Not confident because week 7 made me shaky about everything. Yeah, pretty close. A few things shifting here and there, but all in all,
Chiefs
same.
might get blown out this week. Oh,
We're starting to get to the point
score?
where for me it was, but it's 3-2 though because the Diamondbacks picked up a second run. But anyway, so I think I'm starting to get to the point where I'm regulating between weeks, where right now like the 49ers are down a little bit, but I'm taking 7 weeks into account where it's not like there's a bad loss. I need to feel the need to move someone down, or they have a good win, they get to move up. And so I think that we're starting to see more of that, and then balance is kicking in. But we'll see. I think the Bengals might climb too. We'll see.
I hope so. Joe Burr, this is a big week for them, man.
And next couple too. Like it's not over, but next 3 weeks will be big.
No, but if they beat the 49ers, man, real quick, That is going to be a freaking we're gonna have an interesting conversation on the pod next Tuesday.
Picks time. We already talked about how bad it was.
You want me to run real quick with these picks?
Yeah, run down.
For me, I mean, I think there's gonna be a couple bounce back games. You know, I'm big on bounce back games. I think the Bills are going to cover -7.5 versus Bucks. I also don't think the Bucks are that good. They just had a hot start. As much as I hate to say that. I think the 49ers also cover against the Bengals, as much as I hate saying that against Joe Burr. I don't think they can do 3 straight weeks of losing like this. Also, the Bengals are coming off a bye. So I think it'll be a pretty close game, but I do like the 49ers to cover there. Also, you know what's about to come next. You already know I'm going Texas -3.5 versus the Panthers. I mean, I'm 3 for 3 against the Panthers spread so far this season. Let's go 4 for 4 this week, baby, with the Texans winning by -3.5. Number 4, I got the Vikings to cover the +1.5. They have a lot of momentum right now. They're playing the Packers this week. And I really think that now is that the middle part of the season where the Vikings show everyone they're actually a pretty good football team and they're a playoff contender. Lastly, number 5, I got the Eagles and the Commanders. I like the over here. I think the Eagles are figuring out some things on offense. And then I also think that the Commanders are going to have a little bit of a bounce back game. And the Eagles secondary is it's pretty weak, as we talk about. And I think Sam Howell played well against them last time. And I think he'll probably play well again this time. So I like the over of the 45 line here.
Yeah, I like that. I had 6, and so I got to whittle it down to 5. And the one that I had was Houston at Carolina. I'm going to take that off because, maybe this might be Carolina's first win. So who knows? Not that I'm confident in it because I'm not confident. But I've got 2 games with you, but I'm going to take the over first off on the Bucks Bills. So it's 42.5. I'm going to take the over instead of the Bills to cover. And then Jets at Giants, the New York game. I have the Jets covering -2.5. Then Eagles Commanders. I think that you said the over-under is 45.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think that's a pretty safe bet. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with Philadelphia covering. It's -6.5. Like I said, I'm kind of down on the Commanders right now. Eagles are playing good football, so I think they're going to cover. Then Kansas City at Denver, especially since last time they had such a messy game against the Commanders. I think they're going to take care of business here. Then Kansas City at Denver. Yeah. Again, Kansas City didn't really dominate against Denver the first game. And so even though it's in Denver, I still like Kansas City to cover -8. It's a bigger spread, but I think their offense is firing now. And then the final one is Falcons at Titans. I've got Tennessee +2.5. They're coming off a bye. Oh. They have been all over the place, but I think that Atlanta's not really good, honestly. And I think that Tennessee is a better team, and so Atlanta's got a 2.5 point spread right now, and so I think that Tennessee's probably going to win, but I like them at least to cover. It's 2.5, which is always like an interesting one because I don't know. Sometimes it feels like you might as well just take money line. I know it's stupid logic, but anyway, Tennessee cover.
Right, love it. Yeah, I love it. I like the Jets to cover too against the Giants.
So now that we ran through ours, we've got Mr. Incognito with his hot takes. And I got a text from him. And he's like, I ran the numbers. I'm 10-9, 10 out of 19. With the hot takes for the most part. He had a couple more conservative ones this week. So we got to put a little respect on his name. He had that harsh week, and then we got on him, and then we had a harsh week. And so I guess, it happens to the best of us. It happens to these teams we're talking about. It happens to us.
It happens to the best.
Anyway.
What's up, guys? Mr. Incognito checking back in. A little bit better week last week. Alabama took care of business, beat Tennessee by 2 touchdowns as expected. Utah pulled off the upset against the fake USC. That was kind of a crazy game if you watched it. And then Auburn played well against Ole Miss. They didn't pull off the upset, but they played well till the end. So lock of the week this week, I got Georgia beating Florida. It's a 14.5 spread. There's a lot of talk around Florida potentially beating Georgia because of Brock Bowers being injured for Georgia. I think that's that's relevant. I think it'll probably be close in the first half because of that, but I think Georgia makes enough changes at halftime, wins the game, and I'm going to say they cover the 14.5 point spread. I think they're just a better team. Next game up, we got Oregon taking on Utah. We talked about Utah a little bit last week. Oregon's offense, though, is just so explosive. They're a 6.5 point favorite, Oregon is, and I'm going to go ahead and pick them as a lock to win this game as well. The last game, we got Duke taking on Louisville. Louisville's a 4-point favorite in this game. I would say, it's kind of a hard game to pick because we're not really sure if Duke's quarterback, Riley Leonard, is going to play. If Riley Leonard plays, I'm taking Duke over Louisville. If he does not play, I think Louisville takes care of business. I don't think it's super close if Riley Leonard does not play. All right, guys. Maybe throw a parlay on this one this week. Who knows? Good luck.
All right, man. We want a little draft?
Let's do a little draft. So what we've got today is we're going to do our favorite, fun, best, whatever you want to call it, touchdown celebrations. So it might be recent, might be thrown back. A little inspired by Tyreek Hill, honestly, because the no fun league, having to find him for grabbing a phone and doing a flip. We're like, this is what makes football fun. So let's celebrate it here. And it's an odd episode, so you get to go first.
Ooh, do I?
Mm-hmm.
You know what? And I have to say this because I'm a Panthers fan. But in 2005, Steve Smith did what's called the babysitter Steve. He wiped the back of the ball, burped it, and then put it down for a nap. And I mean, that was OG Carolina Panthers, 2005. And Steve Smith, one of my favorite wide receivers. I mean, just rocking the kids to sleep.
That was on my list. I love that one, especially when him and Chad Johnson, Chad Ochocinco, whatever, were doing the little celebrations back and forth. That was such an iconic, feel-good time, nostalgic in my childhood. So I love that one. It was on my list. But the other one is I loved when Randy Moss did the fake moon to the crowd. That was one of my favorite celebrations. And of course, as a middle schooler, whatever it was, I had to start doing that. And so that's
I love it. Number 2 for me is a phone call to his mom.
Joe Horn.
And that's Joe Horn. It was like back in 2003. And Joe Horn scores the TD. Gets a phone underneath like the padding of the uprights and then calls his mom underscoring a TD. I mean, there's times to call mom and then there's inappropriate times to call mom. That was absolutely the right time to call mom.
Oh, yeah. I think he got like a $30,000 fine or something for that, but so worth it.
Yeah, he got fined.
Which would probably
that's hilarious.
Probably be like $100,000 now. Yeah. I love that one. So I'm going to do... Ooh, there are a lot of good ones here, but I'm going to go pick 2 when Chad Johnson picked up the pylon and did a little putting with it, the little Tiger Woods celebration. I thought that was a fun one.
Gosh, I should have said that, being a golf guy.
I know, I took it from you.
Last for me, I'm not going to do a specific celebration. I'm just going to go with the vibe and the creation of the celebration, right? I'm going to go with Jamar Chase and the gritty. I mean, it was a freaking TikTok trend forever doing the gritty. I mean, you could say Jamar Chase inspired a generation.
It's interesting. That's a good one, which gets me kind of fired up because a lot of, well, so far, like on my list and what we've talked about, there's a lot of receivers from like the aughts, which were great. And there were the diva receivers and it was so fun. So I'm kind of fired up that there's someone now on that list. And then like we talked about with Tyreek Hill doing the flip, like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to give a shout out real quick to T.O. autographing the football, like pulling a Sharpie out of his sock, because that's iconic. But what I'm actually going to do, because I think this is just hysterical, is Chad Johnson doing the Santa Claus when he had a bag of signed merch.
Oh, yeah.
Start throwing it out. Like, how amazingly narcissistic can you be? It's golden. I love that.
I feel like Trump would do something like that. You know?
Oh,
Trump
probably would.
Like a political rally. Yeah. That's hilarious.
Autographed mugshots.
Well, I'll tell you what, man. It's never as fun virtually as being in person, but nonetheless, some good conversations.
Good conversation. Never is fun. I agree with that. We'll be back in studio next week. We've got some other fun people coming on this fall. So I'm excited
Yes,
for
we
it.
do. We have a lot
And
of fun
hopefully week
people
8
coming on this fall.
is not the embarrassment that we displayed last week. My apologies to anyone who followed us into the storm, into the war. I'm sorry.
By the way, shout out Scott for winning that parlay. My guy netted a few $100 by hitting that parlay he said on our pod last week.
Yeah, I mean, we went down, but he did solid. Love that. But anyway, thanks for listening. See you next time.
Peace and blessings.
Go Diamondbacks.
Go Phillies, baby.
Peace.